but we haven't seen any other real unrest in this location after that man was just shouting at police when they arrested him. And we're going to continue to watch that, but he just got now carted away in what very well could be our very first arrest. I know we were speaking with, this was hours ago now, with the representative with Grand Rapids Police Department. He didn't have a good idea at that point of if there had been any arrests made. But now we're going to give you a closer look at our downtown studio, and you can see some of the destruction here. And these are those rounds that were fired into the crowd right here. You can take a look at this. One of these safe smoke shells that was fired into the crowd here. It's pretty interesting here. And then you just take a look now at our downtown studio. That's what I want you to see. At how they were breaking into here and using these barricades to run at police officers, and using these chairs and things, just throwing them through the glass, which is truly incredible and devastating. I mean, especially, for our downtown studio. Luckily, we don't have any personnel in this building. No one made it through. It doesn't appear that anyone made it through the double pane glass. Actually, this is our first time getting a closer look at the studio here. But you can see this double pane glass was not broken through completely. Maybe one portion right here where they did make contact through the glass right there, but no one breached the glass here. But certainly so much destruction throughout all of downtown Grand Rapids. It's heartbreaking, Leon, because as Susan was mentioning earlier, these are largely small businesses, small restaurants, downtown Grand Rapids, who are already dealing with enough stress amid this pandemic, which all care for that seems to have gone out the window. As far as downtown Grand Rapids is concerned, there's been no social distancing whatsoever. And the masks, I have to imagine, are enticing people to act in ways that they wouldn't normally with everyone's faces covered. But it's for the moment right now, and it comes and goes. A moment right now, things seem to be pretty calm, but then you just don't know. People are scattering into other directions, and things could spark back up at any moment. And we're going to continue to follow everything that's happening downtown. Lee, I'm going to throw it back to you.
And that in other protest experiences and riot-type situations or things that have gone out of control like this that I've covered in the past, that's one of the ways that you can typically try to delineate those who are there to cause trouble and those who are not, is who's got their face covered. Well, in this day and age that we are in, that doesn't work. Everybody's got their face covered because of the coronavirus. That's now a normal state of being. So you don't really have that marker to get an indication as to what somebody's about as they are going through downtown Grand Rapids, whether they're there just walking through or whether they're there to cause trouble and wreak havoc, as too many have taken part in downtown Grand Rapids. Justin Kolar, a part of our crew, a part of our team that has been out there on the ground, in some cases in uncomfortable and unsafe situations, bringing us coverage. Justin, we appreciate your work and the work of all of our colleagues who are out there and in the thick of this tonight. You are looking at live image from our Skycam, deceivingly peaceful looking Skycam here, but for a few strobes it looks like everything's okay in Grand Rapids. But if you've watched any length of our coverage here tonight, you know that things are not okay. Our city has been damaged, our city has been scarred in a way that is going to take resources and effort to clean up, to put back together, and to heal from what we saw transpire here today throughout our city. Police forces are still out in the streets trying to extinguish these flare-ups, if you will, these folks that they clear out from one area who pop up and cause damage and wreak havoc in another area. It's sort of a whack-a-mole situation as they go from place to place with this heavy riot gear and try to get a handle on this situation and do this in a way without using lethal force and without folks getting injured or harmed in any significant way. So those are the images that we're seeing. It's hard to believe that these images are in downtown Grand Rapids right now, a city that was the heart of peaceful, silent protests until all this unfolded. Justin Kolar is in position to show us some more of the damage here.
Yeah, so Leon, we're things that have calmed down here more, but I want to do a little walk and talk and show you some of the damage here as we cross Monroe Center. We've been mentioning all throughout this morning's newscast how you can't really escape the damage. I mean, you can see pots and urns of these plants just completely over-tipped, shattered. But more importantly, look at these small businesses. This restaurant, Cinco de Mayo, right downtown, across from our downtown studio, the glass and these pots, these terracotta planters shattered, broken into this window. It doesn't appear that people made any rush into this building, but certainly the storefront is damaged badly. And if we go farther down here, this is a business that people did get into and did loot. It looks like quite significantly, actually. This is a Superior Watch Repair. These store owners and employees are going to come to work in a much different situation. You can see literally right through here, there's an urn that I presume was used to smash their way into this building right there. And there's glasses and greeting cards and all sorts of things smashed. And if you look further into this building, you can see those display cases just completely broken into, and whatever was in there is no longer. And let's take another walk here farther down the street. There was this building looks like they tried to get into, but double pane glass deterred some of the people. And again, right here, this is the post office right downtown Grand Rapids. People broke into, and kind of a sad image right there with the American flag amid all of this broken glass inside the post office, where people just smashed their way into here, just trying to grab anything they could. And that's why we've seen so many people just grabbing random things and leaving with them. You can see some people being good Samaritans and picking up trash. That's the first I've seen of this evening, but this gentleman's here just picking up some trash, trying to do his part to make a difference. You can see the thumbs up from the police officer here. It's certainly appreciated, I'm sure. But some of these businesses are more hardly affected than others. But let's talk to this young man. Excuse me, sir. Do you want to talk real quick about what you're doing here?
Sure.
Okay. What's your name?
My name's Alex.
Alex? I mean, we've seen so many people, where you are on live television, we've seen so many people destroying things and causing so much panic downtown. That police officer just gave you a thumbs up. Why are you picking up trash right now?
I want to be religious on live TV. Jesus, can I do that?
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it. Jesus is our restoration, and I see a lot of destruction around here right now, and I just want to bring some restoration this hard time. A lot of people have a lot of emotions right now, and I want to empathize with that, but I also want to have a positive note on what's going on here.
Alex, right?
Yeah.
Do you live downtown, or did you come here, to see what was going on? It's certainly a historic event.
I live right by John Ball Zoo. I've been here I only lived here for about a year, but I go to college at Grand Valley.
Okay. Certainly, I mean, a great effort. Hopefully other people can see what you're doing and make a difference. Like I say, certainly that police officer did. I'm sure that helped make his evening a little bit better, just seeing
Yeah,
that.
tomorrow at Rosa Park Circle at noon, there's going to be a whole cleanup here. I think it's on Facebook right now, so definitely have your viewers check that out.
How can they find that? Do you know what that Facebook group is called? I know there's so many things going on right now, but that would be certainly a good way to help the city out.
I would just say look up Grand Rapids cleanup, and it'll be a huge event. It's just happening here at noon tomorrow, so just bring some cleaning supplies, whatever you can, gloves, masks, bags, anything you can find.
Well, thank you so much for what you're doing. We really do appreciate that. So we're going to continue to walk down here. So certainly always silver linings to be found in even amid the most terrible situations, as we just saw with that young man, Alex, just trying to do his part to pick up some trash throughout downtown Grand Rapids. And we do see that these crews are on the move, heading back east, up Monroe Center, away from Rosa Parks Circle, which hard to believe given what you were seeing probably about 20 minutes ago at this same location. These crews now heading to another location. Leanne, I don't think you could have put it any better. This has become a sort of whack-a-mole where police crews will combat a situation and they'll take it out and disperse the crowd, and then next thing you know, they'll pop up somewhere else. So let's continue to walk down here. This is the scene of where those car fires were. People are now gathered around those vehicles, it appears. Those were put out, I would guess, maybe an hour ago. Those fires were finally put out. But you can see, if you look to your left, there's some foul language here. But this is all graffiti that has been sprayed on these downtown buildings, and this looks to be where some of the protesters, the rioters, have migrated to. There seems to be a large crowd here of about 50 or so, I'd say, gathering around where these burned out vehicles. One of them, I believe, was a Walker or Wyoming police cruiser. You can see the rally bar on the Wyoming police cruiser right here in front of us. And yeah, you can see the damage from that. But now we are walking to where a lot of these, the crowds have migrated to, as people are just looting out of these vehicles. And I'm not sure what that was. But you can't imagine that there'd be anything of any value in here, as people are just, these vehicles are still smoldering, actually, Leanne, but you can see people just rifling through here, pulling anything out that they can find. And we're just staying close with our crews here, because there's people just walking about everywhere. But just take a look at this. People just pulling anything they can find out of here, trying to, who knows what they're trying to grab out of these vehicles that are still smoldering right downtown Grand Rapids. I'm not sure exactly which road we're on, but we're right next to the Sundance restaurant. And now, if you look down west of this road, you can see police now coming this way. So I'm assuming they're trying to disperse this crowd. As I say, there's probably 100 people gathered right here who may have come from the Rosa Parks crowd. There's certainly no shortage of people looting in this location. And you can see, I mean, in certain parts of this, the Sundance restaurant's been broken into as well. The glass is all broken there. Piece of a rifle or a shotgun on the ground here. To get a look at that right here, over here. You can see,
unfortunately, you guys got
part of a
laying right on the ground.
Shotgun on the ground here, right there. As that gentleman put that back on the ground there, I have to assume that came out of one of these vehicles. This is another police vehicle here. These people are just grabbing things. This is clearly a police vehicle as well. It's unmarkable. There's no way you could tell whose jurisdiction this belongs to, but this is clearly a police vehicle as well. You can see the sirens on top too. And take a look here. Police are shouting something. It's hard to understand exactly what they're saying. I'll be silent for a moment to see if we can understand what they're saying. Well, they might have turned their megaphone off, but people were jumping on the top of these vehicles. They are now off. But it actually looks like 3 of these vehicles were police vehicles. So we're going to, as this scene continues to kind of unfold, we're going to move back over this way, closer to where the police are at. Before things get a little unruly here as well. We're going to move back down this side of the street. Police are now just trying to get a grasp on this scene as we've moved farther north, downtown Grand Rapids, away from Rosa Parks Circle. Police are just starting to work with these rioters wherever they go. But the unfortunate thing, Leon, is people are not listening to the police and to so many of our guests that we've had on throughout the last few hours, telling people to go home, to not come down here. There's so many people driving downtown Grand Rapids who just want to see this happen, but it's just not safe. It's just not safe for people to be down here right now. But they're just continuing to show up with their phones out, just trying to capture this moment when police and anyone who would tell you would say that they should not be here and they should not be doing this. So we are just now walking back up the street as things have cleared out a little bit here where the police officers are in their vehicles. And you can see this car also was some sort of police vehicle here. Impossible to tell whose vehicle this was, as the fire has damaged it so severely. And there's a stop sign through the front of this, through the windshield of this police cruiser. A mannequin actually in front of it too, from another downtown business. A mannequin just thrown on the engine block of this police cruiser downtown Grand Rapids. And you can see now these crews are now turning right here, presumably to whack another mall, Leon. As they continue, the protesters just move from one spot to the next, to the next, to the next, without going home. They want to get their point across this evening.
All right, Justin Kolar, we appreciate your reporting out there, and really all of our crews that have been doing tremendous work in serving the public in this way, in a way that we certainly weren't expecting when we came to work here tonight. And speaking of those who are doing that, Susan Samples, one of our reporters who was out there through the thick of this. You certainly weren't expecting what you faced tonight. In fact, you weren't expecting to have to work today. You're one of our team members in on an off day, but you went through what sounded like to be one of the scarier moments of your career here tonight. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Actually, the scariest moment of my career for certain. At Monroe Center, where the ATM is by the Kilwins there, that the chocolate shop there, people were trying to break into the ATM, and one of our photographers, who is fearless, as you know, and will just do anything, wanted to see what was going on and started to move that way towards the ATM machine, and I was kind of behind him, and as was another photographer, and we were kind of thinking, he might be a little bit too close. These people are breaking into an ATM machine. And indeed, somebody yelled, "There's a camera." Somebody came from the ATM machine and grabbed his camera, and before we knew it, there was a crowd, pulled him down to the ground. He was on the ground, and they were starting to pummel him. And then somehow, these angels came out of nowhere. I don't know where these people came from, because I was just screaming to try to get them to stop. I couldn't decide what to do in that moment, you know? I mean, there was this crowd, and I was worried that I was gonna see my photographer, you know.
Right.
But these angels just came out of nowhere and stood in front of him and protected him and pushed these people away, this crowd. They got these, you know, attackers to back off. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was unbelievable, the violence and the just horrifying nature of it, then the incredible relief and joy of the goodness of people coming out and, you know, rising to the top and saving our photographer. I mean, I genuinely believe that I told those people that, and I think I said it on TV earlier. To one of them, a guy named John. I didn't get his last name. I'm really upset about that. And I said, I think you saved our photographer's life, because they were starting to, I mean, he got beat up a little bit, was on the ground. And, you know, then when the people moved away, he was like, I'm okay, I'm okay. He's just this incredible human being. He's like, I'm fine. And he wouldn't go to the hospital. He had blood gushing down his arm, but it turned out to just be a cut that he didn't think required medical care. Said he'll probably be a little black and blue tomorrow because they got a few punches in. But I have never seen anything like that in my 25-year career. And I hope I never see anything like that again. But I just thank you to the people that stepped in.
And these people who jumped in to help, were they also folks who were participating in some of the the looting and the rioting that was going on?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they were just walking around trying to help and make things better. In fact, I didn't see exactly from where they came, but one of the other photographers I was with said, or actually one of the guys that was just there helping us, this Cody, this guy's amazing. He just was helping our photographers stay safe. And he said, Cody, thank you very much. He said those folks just came from behind us and saw what was going on and just ran in to save our photographer. I mean, they just saw that need and ran in and saved him.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know where these angels came from exactly, but God bless them.
And we tell you this story not, and I know you're definitely from the school of thought where we don't get into this to be the news.
No.
We hope to tell the news and share other people's stories. And I know when the cameras are turned in this way, it's awkward for us to share. But we share this story because it highlights how quickly these things can escalate and how dangerous of a situation we're dealing with tonight on the streets of Grand Rapids.
Yeah, there are so many people down there just gawking and watching what's going on. Not a good idea. It was scary. I mean, it was scary. And so yes, it is awkward and uncomfortable to be part of the story, but I also, want to testify to the goodness in these people who showed up, stood up, and saved our photographer.
Yeah.
I just want to testify that there are good people out there. And the lady who was throwing water on the burning cop cars in this desperate symbolic gesture, who was filling pitchers and throwing them, or the employee standing in front of the olive shop there in Monroe Center saying, please don't loot my store. I mean, the window was already smashed in. So there, I ran into a number of people who were down there doing the right thing.
Trying to do some good in the midst of all this. Stunning to look at. I mean, Susan, you look at this. This looks like something that we would be saying is in a third world country somewhere. I can't believe that is downtown Grand Rapids.
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, where are these people from? I mean, I just have to believe that some of these...
You want to, for sure.
Some of these, yes, right.
There she is.
Oh, there she is. Bless her.
And we're laughing because it's just a tremendous image. You see this huge fire and clearly an effort that will be certainly in vain. We certainly are not trying to make light of this, but... No. You get caught up, you get swept up in the moment, and then from the outside, it's just really something to see.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, and in the worst of times, you see the greatest heroism, and we've seen so much of that. Which let's focus on that for a minute.
Right.
It's pretty amazing. But yeah, where did these people come from? I just can't wrap my head around the level of violence and just seeing, well, you've been watching it all night, but these are people with a very specific agenda. I don't know who were coming in from other locations, not Grand Rapids. I mean, I'm sure there are some Grand Rapids people in there too, for certain.
And we certainly, don't want to, outright dismiss that there are people who feel like this is the way they have to get. This is what they have to do to get an attention toward what is right at the end of this, and that's a place of justice and equality. They think the peaceful efforts aren't working.
Right.
And this is what it's come to.
Yeah, well, that's what one gentleman I talked to said, that very thing. He's like, I hate to see the destruction, but I kind of think this had to happen. I'm really tired of the police following me. I'm really tired. I'm tired of the struggle. Well, and we hear that from...
Right.
It's yeah, what people of color in this country, I just can't even... also can't wrap my head around that experience and the level of frustration, and this is the result. And some of the folks out there who were not burning things down or breaking into places, or we're saying that this had to happen. That this is what had to happen.
And what keeps striking me is, you know, we've had our own incidents here in Grand Rapids that have upset people in a big way, and this response, the most significant I've seen, that you've seen, is for something that happened in Minnesota, and we're seeing this level of violence here. I mean, that speaks to the chord that video struck when people saw it.
The tipping point. We're at this tipping point in the country, right? Too much, too many scenes, too many Minneapolises.
And you wonder how much the already angst and frustration that we're dealing with this coronavirus, it's disproportionately impacting people of color. The economy is being suppressed by it. Folks are out of work, not able to have access to unemployment. That's got to all be part of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Combustible.
Yeah.
Coming together of all of these, you know, devastating circumstances.
Created quite a storm, and I find myself too often being guilty of thinking, when I see things happening other places, that that's not going to apply to us. That's not going to happen here. And was having conversations even as we went into this protest. Is that going to happen in West Michigan? No, we are West Michigan nice. That's not going to happen here. Is certainly the mindset that I walked into this with. Certainly, never could have imagined that we'd see what we saw tonight.
But we are in the United States, and this is touching everyone across this country. So shocking that it would be in Grand Rapids, shocking in this wonderful, loving, warm, philanthropic, just incredible place to live for many people. Not for everybody necessarily. It's not the same Grand Rapids for everybody, right? But I have thought in the past, I've been here 20 years, when is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Is it going to happen here? When is it going to happen? When is it going to boil over? It's going to boil over. It's the tipping point. It's the exploding point. And that is this right now.
Right. Forgive me, my producer directing us to a statement that the mayor just posted on her Twitter account, and we want to share that with you. This is from Mayor Rosalind Bliss of Grand Rapids. She says, "I support our community's need and right to express its anger and pain over the tragic death of Mr. Floyd, and I share the belief that Black Lives Matter. This evening's event was meant to be a peaceful rally where community members could have their voices heard and stand in solidarity. Your messages were heard. The violence, chaos, and destruction that replaced the peaceful protests are unacceptable. This does not represent who we are in Grand Rapids. We are a compassionate community that comes together to have hard conversations and solve tough issues. We need to continue to be that city. We can be, as long as we do not allow violence and destruction to define us. I am grateful for our police officers and the partner agencies that are assisting tonight. Public safety is their top priority, and they are working hard to keep everyone safe under challenging circumstances. I pray for unity in our city and across our country, and recognize that we have a lot of work to do as we continue to work together to build trust and strengthen relationships between our police department and community members." And you know, you have to think that, okay, when the fires are put out and what happens tonight is over, there are people, our Grand Rapids finest and Ottawa County's finest and our police all over the community that are going to be dealing with the fallout of what happened in Minnesota as they tried to do the awesome and difficult work of keeping the peace in our communities.
Well, and the police were exercising so much restraint, I think, throughout much of this, right? And seemed to be kind of standing back for quite some time, and then were, you know, moving in and dispersing and doing tear gas and such. I'm sure that they had all kinds of strategies that they were using and not wanting to escalate this. I don't I think I said before, I'm sure we're going to be studying this, you know, for months to come. Could this have turned out differently? Yeah.
You certainly can't think that there was a manpower issue. I mean, they had a lot of officers down there right away. So it appears that there was some effort to not have them visible and out in the open so as not to incite this kind of thing. But somehow they had them in the crevices of our city, and they came out there quickly. I mean,
yeah,
that was
the police.
Really something.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, although, I mean, yeah, they converged, and it was incredible. But then as that violence was moving north through the city from, you know, around the arena, I didn't see police in so many of those locations. And I don't know, maybe that was by design, but in a lot of those spots for quite some time there were not police around. Where, I mean, I think these were traveling groups of...
And if police would have been there, they would have gone somewhere else, right?
Right, this is how that works, right? Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I thought the police were doing an incredible job in terms of being so restrained and judicious and careful about what they were doing. And yes, your point is well taken. Police are there, they're going, you know,
going to go a different direction.
They're going that way.
And as we debrief about this is still transpiring. There are still people who are out and causing havoc and doing damage in our community, even as we start to sort of digest what has already happened and look at some of the damage we're already seeing. Our Justin Kolar is out on the streets, and he's been looking at some of that damage. Justin, we want to bring you in once again. Where are you, and what do you see at your location?
Yeah, Leanne, we're back down by Rosa Parks Circle here, and you can see that they have moved that barricade up a little bit as these. You can see the Michigan State Police dismounted unit on bicycles is moving back up Monroe Center here past a lot of the hardest hit businesses downtown Grand Rapids. We did just see, I believe our live pics were still going. If whoever who was watching, crews were leaving with sirens on, headed back into another part of the city, but you can see a SWAT vehicle now to our left here, driving downtown with its sirens on. Something we did see, which was a pretty powerful image. I'm not sure if our viewers were able to see this, but I can explain it to the best of my ability. There was an Ottawa County SWAT vehicle that rioters ran up to in short order and spray painted an obscenity on the back of it. And at that same moment, a woman got in the middle of the street and blocked the vehicle's path. So for a brief moment, you could see that vehicle, which was vandalized, not able to go down one of the streets because someone was blocking its path. And it's just kind of been like that all evening long. You have police trying to get from one area to the next, and then they're blocked on their way to do so. And earlier in the broadcast, you could see this is our downtown studio at the Graham, right near Rosa Parks Circle, and it doesn't appear that anyone made it through the building. But this was the scene of a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety and angst right down here, and that is now not the case. Rosa Parks Circle is largely empty. People did spray paint obscenities on the entryway to the Grand Rapids Art Museum, and people are now just posing in front of that. But now you can see, yeah, right there to our left, you can see the people posing on the Grand Rapids Art. Just won't go to bed, won't go home, have just moved on to another location. There is still so much traffic downtown. You would expect to see traffic like this on a normal day, and people are driving so fast with so much just disregard to any rules. People, we were commenting, my photographer and I were commenting, a one-way street. People were driving the other way down it and creating like 2 lanes of traffic down this one-way street. A lot of motorcyclists, a lot of people on dirt bikes. As you can see, people were reaching into that building to to grab something there. And again, this is Monroe Center, right in the heart of downtown Grand Rapids. A lot of these businesses are some of those that were the hardest hit. And I know Susan is on right now, and I believe this is the ATM that was broken into where your photographer was injured. Right up here at the corner. I believe that would be the ATM where that happened. I don't know for sure, but if not, there are multiple ATMs that have been broken into and damaged this evening. As you can see, people trying to reach into that and get anything out of it that they can. There were fires up and down this street maybe about 30 minutes ago, and you can see people just wandering into these businesses that have been broken into. People just looting. These people are a little late to the party, but I'm sure you can see people just walking through these downtown businesses with their flashlights on, just grabbing whatever they can. It's unreal. It's unreal to think that this is happening downtown Grand Rapids. And as Susan said, this is still the United States of America, so maybe we shouldn't think that we would escape that. But these people just not content and not ready to quit this evening. We're going to continue to walk throughout the city, find some more instances of looting, and find where the police are at right now. But we're going to toss it back to you, Leon. Thank you.
Justin Kolar, thank you for your reporting as we continue to look at live pictures showing some of the damage of the buildings, many of which have suffered significant damage because of what started as a peaceful protest that devolved into an all-out riot situation in downtown Grand Rapids. With us on the phone right now is City Commissioner for Grand Rapids, Joe Jones, who's also a pastor in our community. Commissioner Jones, thank you for joining us. I imagine you've been seeing some of these images, and your first reaction.
Well, first of all, let me say this, Leon. I want to commend you and the crew at Wood TV. You guys have done a phenomenal job all evening. I've had the chance to tune in, and you all have just been just on top of it. I want to commend you for that. I had the opportunity to be downtown in Grand Rapids for the beginning of the peaceful protest, silent march that was scheduled at Rosa Parks Circle. And I think it's fair to say that there were other folks involved whose intent was to create mayhem. And they have, I think, in some ways succeeded. But that original plan that the organizers had to create a space where people could come together in solidarity and channel their anger in a way that was peaceful was disturbed, was totally, I think, torn to pieces. And what has transpired in many ways is chaos. And I see it as rather unfortunate. And I do believe that there are a number of folks who have been involved this evening. Again, I was down there for quite some time at the beginning of the silent protest. And I came back down and took the opportunity, along with the mayor, to walk the streets of downtown Grand Rapids. And we talked to folks, and we saw with our very own eyes some of the damage that was being done. And there are a number of, again, folks who were involved who I do not think were residents of our city, but individuals who perhaps were from who knows where, who felt the need to come in and just destroy our city. And yet I understand the anger. I understand the frustration. As a black man in America, I can definitely not just relate, but I can empathize and I can share in that pain. But what we've seen tonight has been reckless, and I think the individuals involved with this mayhem, again, are not indicative of the original intent that was in place for the march that was planned for 6 o'clock last evening.
Commissioner, there is certainly a segment of our population, perhaps a larger than we would care to admit, that see this and go, this is how you get the attention of, quite frankly, people like you, the city commission, the people who are elected to make a difference and help ensure that there is equality and justice for people of color in our community. This is the only way to really get your attention. Do you outright dismiss that?
No, actually, we heard that as we walked the streets of downtown Grand Rapids, that that was part of the narrative that we heard from those we came in contact with, was they felt that it was going to take something like this to get our attention, and we had to respond to them that, no, we heard you and have heard you loud and clear before this, and I think it's fair to say that we have, as a city, have taken measures and done our best to try to create a city that is more inclusive, that is more equitable, a city that recognizes the benefits of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and as a city that is working diligently to be a more welcoming city and a city that provides prosperity for more people. And so, and yet I respect the right for anyone to voice their opinion, but not in the form of damaging public property and just, again, creating mayhem and not at all considering the ways in which people can effectively communicate their position, and I think most importantly, recognizing that it is possible to disagree without being disagreeable. And I think that what we've seen this evening, it is painful. Again, I was able to see with my own two eyes, and I just want to continue to work diligently to, again, make our city better and make it a model city. And I believe that we have the tools to do that. But I do believe that what has happened this evening is going to require a significant road to recovery. I don't think that the city will be the same. But my hope, again, and my prayer would be is that somehow through this we could be better.
And Commissioner, you wear a number of hats. Susan and I were talking, well, do we call him Reverend or Commissioner or the person in charge of the Urban League? You wear a lot of hats in this, but one of them, of course, is as a city commissioner and someone who's going to have to help us figure out how we pay for some of the damage that's been done and the response to this crisis at a time where you are already talking about doing cuts and slashing the budget. How concerned are you about the pressure that this adds to an already pressurized system of finances in our city?
I'm very concerned. Again, to your point, here we are in the midst of a pandemic, something that has been devastating to our local economy and to our budget. And as you know, we just passed our budget, and now we have this before us. And so I think we'll have to clearly put our heads together with and take an all hands on deck approach to determine and figure out how do we fix this? How do we make this right in terms of the damage that's been done, the infrastructure, again, the businesses that were already hemorrhaging, that are now going to be even further injured because of the events of this evening. And so I will tell you, I have the ultimate confidence in our city manager, Mark Washington, and his capacity and the team that he has pulled together with the city, as well as my colleagues on the commission. And I also want to give honor where honor is due in terms of the work that our police department has done this evening, along with the King County Sheriff's Department and the Michigan State Police, I think with Ottawa County Sheriff's Department as well, in trying to restore order in a way that also dignifies the humanity that was present, that's been present downtown. So it is, again, going to take, as I mentioned, an all-hands-on-deck approach. And it's not just going to be those who are elected or appointed. It's going to be community as well. It's going to be the faith community. It's going to be the business community. It's going to be the nonprofit and the philanthropic community. It's going to take a lot of pieces to put this puzzle back together.
Mm-hmm. And you hear a lot of people talking about just all the pressures that have come onto us in 2020, and we're not even halfway through. We've got what will undoubtedly be an intense election where a lot of these same issues are going to be on the ballot and on the table for discussion, and some of these same frustrations are going to undoubtedly come to top of mind again. As a person of faith, how do you explain to folks why we're under such pressure right now?
I think what we're seeing is a culmination of things. And to begin with, I would speak to just what happens when you have a community that is without hope. And I think that when you look at what has transpired in our country, from the beginning of our country, over the centuries, and the lack of real opportunity and the inequities that have been in play, and the discrimination and just the absolute lack of real opportunity, those are things that can create hopelessness. And I think that we have to do what we can, especially in the faith community, to advocate and push for the importance of restoring hope and the importance of really beginning to and committing to seeing each other as image bearers of God. And this is not something I'm coming up with. This is something that is written in the Holy Scripture. And so I lean into that heavily. I think that is something that has been missing historically, is when you don't see the other, or someone who perhaps has a different hue, different ethnicity, if you don't see them as being fully human, then it is one should not expect peace. One should expect conflict, because if someone is continuously treated in a way that is inequitable, and if they're being treated as inferior, there comes a time, and history shows this, where the response is not that of just going along. The response is to push back. And I think what we're seeing across the country is a significant pushback for centuries of oppression and lack of real opportunity. And so, unfortunately, it has touched our beloved city, and we're seeing it play out right before our very eyes.
What do you say to someone who looks at what unfolded tonight and it causes them to outright dismiss the issues that were at the heart of the center of the protests that led up to all of this? That says, see, these people are just a bunch of thugs. What they're talking about is hogwash. What do you say to those folks?
What I would say is, I would just encourage folks to again, fully understand how we got here. One of the questions I get asked on a pretty continuous basis, based on the various roles that I play in community, is people ask me, Joe, how do we fix this? Whether it's health disparities, whether it's the economic disparities, whether it's the academic outcomes that differentiate between communities of color and majority community. And my response is always, before we can talk about how to fix this, we first have to better understand how we got here. And so there's a lot to be said about how we got here as a country, how we got here as a community, as a city. And it's too easy to just kind of apply labels and say that someone's a thug because of what we're seeing this evening. Again, I am not endorsing what we've seen this evening. And again, I really do believe that what we've seen this evening is the result of individuals whose heart and whose intent was not to express themselves in a way that is constructive. But what we saw tonight was really activities of irresponsibility and individuals who, again, I don't think are necessarily from the 616, but individuals who just felt the need to take advantage of an opportunity and engage in the chaos and actually enhance the chaos.
Okay. Commissioner Joe Jones, Second Ward City Commissioner, who wears a number of hats, and I hate to say it to you, Commissioner, but we're going to need you to wear all of them plenty as we respond and deal with what has transpired tonight. Thank you for taking some time to reflect and discuss with us tonight.
Thank you, and thank you again, Leon, and the folks at Wood TV for your work this evening. Appreciate you.
Okay, Commissioner, thank you. We want to go back live now to the streets there where we're seeing activity yet again. We saw fireworks in the air and police scrambling to yet another hot spot. Our Justin Kolar stepping into frame there to bring us up to speed.
Leon, just before, when you were speaking with the commissioner, when you were seeing those fireworks, moments before that, police crews were rushing down the street, chasing away protesters down near Monroe Center anyway, running down here, and the scene quickly escalated. We saw police crews equipping their flashbangs, throwing them into the running crowd, and then going to their rubber pellet guns, shooting those rounds into the running protesters as well. And I want to show you this too. Our photographers with the keen eye right here. Moments ago, a woman just threw this chair right into this window of this business, and you can see broken equipment and lamps on the ground here. It's just a mess all throughout downtown Grand Rapids, but it just goes to show you how quick these scenes can escalate. We were walking down what seemed to be a quiet street right next to Monroe Center, and as the police crews just said, hey, no more, started running towards the protesters, and next thing you know, they were shooting their rubber bullets at them and throwing those flashbangs. Now, again, it still doesn't seem to be dissuading anyone to go home. This is madcap right downtown. This business appears to have been potentially one of the hardest hits as far as damage goes. This entire front window, obviously gone. And you can see some of the glass just scattered inside the business. I'm not sure at this point if anyone ransacked the inside of this, looted this business or not, but you can see it's just a continued mess downtown Grand Rapids. And as soon as these people move away and the police are setting up these barricades and these barriers, they just form somewhere else. So you can move from spot to spot to spot to another hot spot, and the police will let them gather for a few moments before equipping those flashbangs, the tear gas. I can't even tell you how many times my photographer and I have walked through thick clouds of tear gas smoke this evening from one street corner to the next. As the morning rolls on, it's now 3:10 in the morning, and things don't appear to be slowing down much, if at all, like they had been earlier this morning. Now, again, police have set up this barricade here, this barrier, and they have done so. And also, actually, why don't you take a look at this? They have plow trucks out here to block the streets even further. I have to assume those plow trucks are there to block anything getting closer to Grand Rapids Police headquarters up Monroe Center. Because you can see, this area heavily barricaded on any access point from getting any further, any closer to the Grand Rapids Police Department. We're going to continue to follow this because all the protesters and rioters that were at this juncture are now scattered somewhere else throughout the city. So we have to assume that they are going to clash with police once again. We're reporting live downtown Grand Rapids. I'm going to give it back to you, Leon.
Justin Kolar, thank you for that report. Getting from my police contacts that they are still aware of active looting and vandalism and damage that is happening at businesses in our area. We saw a short time ago another skirmish there with the police showing up at that location to break it up. Justin, if we still have you here, I want to ask you, we saw the one arrest take place. Have you seen any more in terms of arrests?
No, Leon, I have not seen another arrest, actually. That first arrest happened right in front of the Mac studio downtown on Monroe Center. But again, that man was really, really egging on the police officers. I haven't seen anyone else be quite that bold, honestly, throughout the course of this entire evening. For all these hours we've been down here, I haven't seen anyone else really get in the face and taunt the officers quite like that man did, and he was arrested. Everything else, these people have stayed in large groups where I don't believe it would be easy for an arrest to be made without these officers getting potentially overtaken themselves. In any of the skirmishes and the dust-ups that I've seen down here, there's been more protesters than have been officers. Obviously, these officers have the flashbangs, the pepper spray, the tear gas to dissuade people from getting too unruly, as we have this GRPD cruiser getting right up on us here. We have not seen another arrest, Leon.
And of course, we certainly don't claim to be seeing everything that's going on. There may very well have been a number of other arrests in other parts of the city, but as far as ones we've witnessed, we just saw the one there as Grand Rapids police move in on another Grand Rapids intersection where they are trying to keep a handle and control on what is happening out there. The Grand Rapids Police Department a short time ago did post a message on Twitter. We want to show you that message, and it reads, "To our loved ones, our friends, and our city, we are doing okay and holding our own. Thank you for the love and prayers. They keep us strong. See you soon." That from the Grand Rapids Police Department on Twitter, reaching out to the many people who have been impacted by the images they're seeing, and expressing that sentiment to the Grand Rapids Police on the various social media platforms, and the police with a response to that here on Twitter, clearly aware of the fact that their response to this is going to go far beyond what happens tonight. There's investigations to be done for the crimes that were committed here tonight. And then there is the work of dealing with the fallout from this, dealing with a public that has a fired up sentiment and a frustration that is at the surface when it comes to interactions with police and people in our urban community. They're going to be dealing with that face-to-face as they work to keep the peace in our city long after this incident and this amazing set of incidents that led us to what we are doing here tonight. It's now 3:15 in the morning, and this is continuing for a number of rioters who are in the streets and still doing damage. Police are responding to them as best they can and trying to put a stop to this. And this may very well not stop until sunrise. So police are forced to respond and deal with these hotspots as they flare up everywhere. This is a live shot from one of our sky cams that from this bird's eye viewpoint looks like our city is as we left it when we looked at this sky cam shot 24 hours ago. That is certainly not the case. Zoomed in view shows the damage, the carnage, the looting, the pain, the loss that has been suffered tonight at the hands of people who chose the path of violence, who chose the path of destruction as their way of expression about an issue that happened in Minnesota. It speaks to the impact that what our law enforcement community does and the impact it can have. I mean, this was an incident that happened in Minnesota in the middle of what was likely a normal day, and that now has sparked a nationwide reaction. The damage from this in the millions and millions of dollars for the communities that have been impacted by protests across the country. In Detroit, at one of these protests yesterday, someone lost their lives. Someone was shot and killed because someone drove through one of these protests and fired a shot and killed a 19-year-old young man. As much as what we're dealing with is so unfortunate and so difficult to see and bring sadness to those of us who love the city of Grand Rapids, we are fortunate right now that nothing that has transpired tonight at this point, and we hope it stays that way, has ended in the loss of life or even any significant injuries that we are aware of. But certainly we have seen the potential for that as rioters sped through the streets of downtown Grand Rapids in their vehicles, faced off with police, came at police sometimes in threatening ways. The restraint that officers showed was remarkable in some of the cases that we were able to see, even in our camera view, not counting the ones that we weren't able to see that were undoubtedly going on as our cameras followed action elsewhere. So this has become a tremendous undertaking, and it shows when there's situations like this, the planning and the work behind the scenes that we often don't ever see come to fruition or appreciate. Typically, these types of events don't turn into this. And today we saw all that planning and all that behind the scene works that our police officers do when there's an event like this come to fruition and come to be needed. And we saw that force needed, and it was there in a matter of minutes as these things broke out. We're looking at some damage there in downtown Grand Rapids. Justin Kolar is there with another report for us tonight. Justin.
Hey, Leon. Yeah, we mentioned earlier that the police crews had been blocking a lot of Monroe Center. They actually moved their barricade up further. We're actually on Monroe Center in Ionia. We did point out that snowplow earlier in the broadcast, and now we've moved further up Monroe Center. This is actually the furthest we've been able to go all evening, and you can see some crews now rushing down Ionia. It appears to be Grand Rapids Police and a fire truck, maybe two fire trucks headed up by another two Grand Rapids Police Department vehicles. Where exactly they're heading, we're not quite sure, but there is an active, well, it's smoldering now. There are turned over dumpsters with fires that have been spread all throughout the city, and you can see that's certainly the case right here. This is still smoldering. These dumpsters were tipped over in the middle of the street. This is Ionia, right downtown, and it's just trash and, yeah, flames still as parts of the city just continue to burn. This is Ionia Street again. Cars are still driving by, but you can see police up ahead trying to do their best to stop traffic, to block this portion of the road. And you can see a lot of the spray paint and damage on this First Community Bank right down here, marked with the name of George Floyd. You know, obviously a couple hundred miles away from us, which has sparked so much of this outrage. But we're going to walk down the street here closer to where those fire trucks were heading. I can see in the building up to our right smoke alarms going off, flashing in the upper stories of that building. So we don't know if there's an active fire yet. We're heading down the street, heading down Ionia towards that building, because you can see that's where the fire trucks were heading. So we're gonna keep walking down here, and you can see some of the other rioters are doing the same. Other protesters, I should say, walking down the street too, as a SWAT vehicle heads our way further up Ionia. This is actually the one that I mentioned earlier with the obscenity spray paint on the back of it. So as we get closer to this, the CWD building downtown on Ionia, you can see, starting to see some of the reflection of the fire truck's lights in the windows as the lights in the building continue to flash, signifying that there is at least smoke alarms going off. So let's get a closer look here as we round this corner. I can see 2 of those fire trucks with a lot of broken glass in front of the Michigan First Credit Union here. I don't see any smoke. I don't see any fire. I almost walked through this barricade here. But it does appear that this building was broken into. We don't know if it's been looted or not, but people are still kind of dispersing. At this moment, Leon, I would say this is the fewest amount of people other than police officers that I've seen all night long. So if people are actually starting to go home or not, we really don't know. But you can see, if you take a look at this here, some of these vehicles now responding to this scene where people may have broken into this building. There might be something more going on. We don't know at this time because we haven't had an opportunity to talk to anyone to see exactly what the full extent of the damage is, if there is a fire here. This is honestly the first time I can say all night, the first or second really, where we've seen crews be able to respond to an active scene. So much of downtown has been blocked by protesters, by other things. So take a look at this building here and you can see the damage for yourself. And then you can hear the alarms going off inside, where people had used some sort of object to smash their way into this building. And you can see the, it might be business owners or someone at the door there, maybe speaking with police. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but there's so much damage in this building, so much damage at this window here, this double pane glass that someone smashed through. If you take a look even further up the street down Ionia, you can see a new barricade formed by the Grand Rapids Police and now Michigan State Police here as well, as we're getting closer to actually our original location where we started off this evening, down Fulton. And this is where a lot of the police presence has been headquartered. So you can see a lot of them are, hey, good morning. You can see a lot of these crews are still staging here, working to maybe develop a plan, Leon, to stage their crews to get to other parts of the city. We've really made the rounds so far this evening and into the morning hours, where you'll see crews in one part of town, then they'll move to another, as they're just working to put out these small fires like these dumpsters, and also working to tame some of these protesters and rioters who are just continuing to, refusing to go home, refusing to calm down. And I mean, it was just moments ago that we saw another skirmish pop up between the rioters and police as they were running down the street. The police then throwing flashbangs, throwing those tear gas canisters into the crowds, and then pulling out either a paintball gun or a gun that fires those rubber shells into the crowd. And you could hear the people screaming as they were hitting them, but it worked. I mean, it did work to disperse that crowd as they continued to run down Ionia. That's where we are right now, Ionia, as it runs into Fulton, as they would have been met by this barricade. So whether or not any arrests happened here, we weren't here, so it's hard to say, but we're going to have to continue to find that out as the morning continues. It does seem, though, Leon, at least at this point where we are at, again, There are, right now, this is the first time I've been able to say all evening, all morning long, where I can't see any protesters, any rioters. And if I look 360 degrees, I can't see any protesters or rioters. And that's the first time I've been able to say that. There are certainly, in this part of town, police do seem to have a handle on the situation. Whether or not that could be the case farther north, I have no idea. But we're going to continue to walk over that way, and we'll check things out, and we'll be sure to let you know, Leon.
Justin Kolar, one of our newer reporters on our team. I want to commend you for the work you've done tonight. You've experienced things that some reporters go an entire career without seeing or experiencing, being subject to tear
I was
gas
your intern, Leon, so.
And things like that. I wasn't going to bring that up. But I want to commend your efforts there. I'm curious from your vantage point, what is the image that sticks with you about what you've seen tonight?
Well, you know, Leon, when we started off talking with you this evening, we were perched up in the parking garage, and I would say the scene from that was the initial, the first barricade that I saw, where there were hundreds of protesters, hundreds of rioters coming face to face with those police, and the just absolute restraint that they were exhibiting, being spit on. I saw them being spit on, things thrown at them point blank, and the police still just seemed emotionless. Things really didn't get out of hand from police until well into the morning hours. I think the image that sticks with me most, though, Leon, happened maybe about an hour ago when we first saw the Ottawa County SWAT vehicle here, and the moment that it stopped, as it was blocked off by a woman with her hands in the air, someone spray painted that obscenity on the back, and it was just one of those moments I think will stick with me for the rest of my life. There's that obscenity on the back of the SWAT car, a woman standing in front of it with her hands in the air, blocking it from moving at all, and people just all around screaming and shouting at the police officers. That was probably the moment that's going to stick with me.
You saw folks spraying an obscenity on a police SWAT vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, people are really, I've said this a couple of times on air, but everyone's wearing these masks right now. I can't imagine, with all the cameras that everyone has at their devices, you know, that anyone would act the way that we've seen people act throughout the evening, just doing the most outlandish things you can think of. But everyone's got their faces covered. I mean, at least half, 50% of their face. So it's people are being very bold in what they're doing. People just literally smashing into windows in front of police and grabbing things out of them. It's incredible.
Wow, you mix anonymity along with the mob mentality that can come when folks get together for a common cause of doing some damage, and it can paint a recipe for disaster, a recipe for a mess, and that's certainly what we've seen. And you pointed out that there are hardly buildings in that core downtown area that haven't been damaged or suffered some damage because of this protest.
I think I could count on one hand the amount of buildings in, like you say, the core downtown area that are not spray painted, not broken into, no damage at all. I literally think there's less than 5 in the core downtown area. In some of these, as we were speaking, we were seeing this happen before our very eyes. And I mean, it's one of those things you just think, is anyone else seeing this? Is anyone else seeing what's going on right now? And certainly, I mean, at that point, there was just too many of them for police to arrest everyone. And you do have that mob mentality where people are like, well, they can't take us all down, and then it just takes one flashbang, one tear gas canister, and people really start running. But that's been the most effective thing I've seen. And up until the last hour, I had not seen police shooting their non-lethal weapons at them. I did have one pointed right at me. I didn't have our photographer with me. We certainly didn't have a light. So I think they might have mistaken me for a rioter or a protester, because we were getting pretty close to that line. So that's another moment I think I'll think about for the rest of my life, having that non-lethal rifle pointed right at me at point-blank range. And I simply said to him, I'm like, hey, I'm with the press. Please, just tell me where to go. I'll get out of the way. And got out of the way in a hurry. I did.
Well, it's good that you identified yourself and made that clear. Now, you pointed out that you're not seeing any of the rioters in your area, but a lot of what you've been able to communicate to us is what you are hearing. Do you hear sounds that police are responding to other places, or sounds of activity elsewhere?
Just in the last second where you were saying that, I did hear more glass shatter off in the distance here, past the Monroe Center garage. But I mean, it's interesting. We're standing in the middle of a street. We're not on a sidewalk because the street's been blocked off by police as they've, moved their barricades throughout downtown. But I mean, I do have the IFB in right now, but you can hear shouting still in the distance. I don't want to call it before before this is truly the case, but this is the calmest that I've seen it as far as police now, even in front of this Michigan State Police cruiser, gathered around, seemingly kind of chit chat on the hood of this Michigan State Police cruiser, and behind me there's a gentleman just riding a bike. It does seem like within the last 20 to 30 minutes, maybe less than that, 15, things have really calmed down. I do still see some smoke off in the distance, and you can really, I mean, all throughout the night, there's been car horns honking and honking and honking. But things are really starting to, at least from this perspective, right where we are, have seemed to calm down. Whether that's the case a couple blocks away, it doesn't seem like it's very loud over there, but it does seem like things are starting to calm down a little bit.
Definitely not anything of an all clear at this point. Police still holding a posture, and there's clearly still plenty of activity going on in the city.
Yeah, we're just going to have to continue to watch it. I do see now a fire truck just went past here. You're going to miss it. Oh, there's another one. Going right there, right through that intersection, and now a Grand Rapids police cruiser behind it. I'm imagining, like you said, Leanne, this is still far from over, and there's another fire truck. But it does seem as though maybe things have dispersed from the core downtown area to maybe some of the outer lying areas. Maybe as people are starting to go home, they're bringing some of the protest and the riot to their neighborhoods, to their other places where they're going for the rest of the morning. But it does seem, at least for now, that things downtown have calmed down a bit. We'll have to see, though, if that remains the case or not. You can still see, like I say, a large presence of police on Fulton here, where we were initially staged earlier this evening. That presence has largely, stayed right here. They've had this barricade set for a few hours now. But you can see that they're working to make that presence felt here. And we'll just continue to walk down this way and now maybe get another look at some of their spray paint obscenities on, like I say, so many buildings. And we did highlight this earlier, but you can see now some of the employees, maybe ownership, now talking inside of this building after it had been broken into in multiple points right here. You can see, and then just take a look at this too. This stop sign, I'm not going to touch it, but just now set against the side of this building. It actually looks like there's blood on the side of that. But then as we walk down this street, you can see just so many broken windows on this building alone. Almost every other window or so was broken. And there's actually, take a look at this real quick. I'm not sure if this is the culprit, but there's a stop sign resting inside this building, inside quite a ways inside this building. So whether or not that was, I've seen many stop signs used as as those objects to break into these buildings. They use that the top of the stop sign and just smash into the buildings. And you can see what did the damage here was the base of one of those signs. If you take a look right into the entryway here, you can see they just hurled that right straight through here. And then they must have jumped inside or did whatever they did as they continued down here. So we started part of our second part of this broadcast in one of these garages nearby where we were stationed from above, and we saw someone use a stop sign and just use it as a ramrod, just smash into this window, smash into this window, smash into this window. And they jumped inside, pulled one of these TVs out. You can see one of those TVs is where they tried to pull it out. It's kind of hanging diagonally on the wall. That's not how it's supposed to be, obviously. But we did see someone actually use one of those stop signs. I have video of it posted to my Twitter. I was right above them. And he's like, "Are you going to stop me? Are you going to stop me? Well, then take the video." So he's just smashing his way into here. And they were pulling out TVs, anything they could grab, really. And continuing to walk down the street with these big TVs. And this is actually now over here, looks to be like an office building, but you can see that they did make it in here and stopped by for a visit at the vending machine, both of which have been broken into. You can see the shattered glass on the floor and the holes through the glass on both vending machines, where people broke in here and decided to loot a refreshment or two. And we've seen people with all sorts of, I don't want to call them souvenirs because that seems to be putting the situation lightly, but I've seen people walking around with all sorts of things that they took from downtown. I saw someone with the front end of a police shotgun that was completely burned. And you take this too, this gate arm of a parking garage lying here in the street. We've said this a few times, Leon, but I can only imagine how ginormous the cleaning effort is going to be throughout the entire city for the days to come. I mean, weeks to come, honestly. There's been so much destruction, so much damage done to so many. It's just so widespread downtown Grand Rapids, how far the damage is. And I'm sure these business owners are gonna be feeling the sting as well. As we've said it a few times throughout the broadcast, we're not only in the middle of a pandemic now where money is tight, and a lot of these restaurants, these local businesses and restaurants have had a hard time not being able to have people in their buildings, and now they're being broken into and their products are being stolen, and that's just another expense, I'm sure, that they are not hoping to have to deal with, but now they do for sure. And we're getting closer to downtown. That's the Grand Rapids Art Museum right there in the foreground in Rosa Parks Circle. We can see a few people now walking around to where we couldn't earlier, where we were at Fulton and Ionia. It does seem that people are, there are some people still in this area, but not as many as we had seen earlier. So hopefully people are getting the message that they should be going home and calming down, but we'll have to continue to see if that's the case or not, Leon.
All right, Justin Kolar, as we see the damage there at the Leo's restaurant, one of the nice places for folks to dine in downtown Grand Rapids, one of the places damaged in the midst of the chaos that we saw transpire. As we move through this, we are starting to see somewhat of a change of the guard as our daybreak team is now getting into place. Our Dana White is just getting into Rosa Parks Circle with some fresh eyes on what we are seeing out on the streets. Dana, what are you waking up to this morning?
Yes, Liam, well, we just got here to Rosa Parks Circle, as you mentioned, and this is a look at our downtown studio. You can see the windows have been smashed, these fences knocked down, chairs on the ground, and it's kind of insane. I was out here at the original peaceful protest that started at 6 o'clock, and it had a completely different tone. Everyone was walking peacefully, chanting in unison, and to see that it escalated into something like this, not even 12 hours later, is very shocking. We still have people out here on the streets as police are trying to just make sure everyone goes home, but there are just a lot of people wandering out here, walking, smashing bottles into the ground, and again, police are still here at Rosa Parks Circle trying to disperse the crowds. But as I mentioned, the way that it escalated from 6 o'clock p.m. last night until right now, it's a bit insane.
No doubt about it, Dana, that is one word you could use to describe all that we have seen tonight as we watch police move into a place and position near where you are as they continue their effort to get a handle on all that has transpired in downtown Grand Rapids today. Police actually just put out a public statement here this evening talking about the multifaceted and dynamic situation that they found themselves dealing with. What we are seeing right now on camera is only part of the effort being conducted by the Grand Rapids Police right now. They are responding into the heart of the Grand Rapids to try and keep order and peace there. Police are fanned out in other parts of the city, trying to make sure we're not seeing flare-ups there. But at the same time, detectives and investigators are working to piece together some of the crimes that have taken place. And they are saying that the folks who perpetrated those crimes to watch out, because the Grand Rapids Police Department is going to seek justice for those who have been victimized and those who have responsibility for some of the crimes and vandalism that took place. I want to read from you, for you, the statement that the Grand Rapids Police Department just put out. They said, our department is saddened by the events that have transpired downtown over the past 9 hours. What started as a peaceful rally was distorted into senseless acts of vandalism and violence. We know these pointless crimes do not represent who we are as a city. We will work around the clock to hold everyone who was involved in criminal activity accountable for their actions. Everyone in our community deserves to live in safety and in peace. They say their personnel will work to serve the community in the coming days while city leadership addresses strategies and plans for maintaining calm and security. They say city officials will be talking about their plans to do that later today. That, of course, we will bring coverage of as that happens. And they end the statement saying, our hearts remain with our community, and we appreciate all the support and kind words that we have received during this difficult time. That statement just in from the Grand Rapids Police Department that still is actively engaged with keeping the peace in our city tonight, an effort that has gone far beyond perhaps anything they were expecting when coming into this evening with what was supposed to be a silent protest that started in Rosa Parks Circle. We are looking at some of the damage, smashed windows, spray paint, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage in downtown Grand Rapids. Dana White looking at some of that for us right now. Dana.
Yes, Leon, we just walked a little bit over. Now we're in front of the Big B here next to Rosa Parks Circle. You could see this window completely smashed. If you take a look at the ground, there is glass everywhere. So it is very important just to kind of watch where you're walking down here. Like I just mentioned, there are a lot of people just kind of wandering about, walking, and police are just really trying to get them to go home. But from where it was earlier until now, there are a lot fewer people out here, but the damage is intense. Here's a look at Kilwins. You can see this glass here completely smashed. If you take a look inside, you could see that the glass has made it to their equipment on their tables. So people had definitely made their way in this place and came out, in the glass all over the ground, food on the ground. So that's what we're seeing right now.
Dana, thank you all for that. We'll let you kind of continue to move around. Justin, from his vantage point, was saying that he wasn't seeing any signs of protesters or people who are actively doing damage. Dana, if you still have us, are you seeing any sign of rioters or people who are still continuing to cause problems? We may have.
Yeah, Leon. So from what we're seeing right now, not exactly rioting, just a lot of standing around in front of stores and walking around the circle and kind of looking at the damage. There's a lot fewer people out here than there was earlier, but as far as rioting goes, I'm not currently seeing that.
Okay. A lot of gawkers, a lot of people out looking and wanting to see the damage. And that's something that no doubt police and those who are responding to the situation at hand would discourage I know that they are trying to get a handle on this situation, and there are times where people who are not rioters and not wanting to do damage can be confused for people who are. So being out there might be putting yourself at risk for being placed into a dangerous situation. But man, we're looking at the streets of downtown Grand Rapids, the calmest that we've seen them for quite some time now this evening. But what a mess. What a mess that's been left behind. We see the strobes of police cruisers and lights flashing as police maintain their positions throughout the community there in downtown Grand Rapids. But there's hardly a building there in our core downtown Grand Rapids area that hasn't been touched by vandals, that hasn't been smashed their windows out, that hasn't had graffiti spray painted on it. All of this is going to have to be cleaned up. All of this, we're going to have to put the pieces back together for a city that no doubt is broken after what transpired here tonight. It is right now 3:47 in the morning. We're coming up toward 4 o'clock. Police have been dealing with this in earnest for some 9 hours now, planning to deal with what was billed as a peaceful protest, a peaceful gathering, and certainly what seemed as though it was going to be that way, a situation that devolved into rioting, into looting, into parts of our community damaging what so many have worked so hard for. You're looking at what we've characterized as and what we believe was sort of the turning point, the flash point that took this from a protest, an energetic and intense protest, albeit, but this is where things seem to turn from protesting to violence. And it wasn't long after that that we saw all of the police action and activity that we've been seeing. Let's go back out to Dana White, who is at another vantage point to show us some damage in downtown Grand Rapids. Dana?
Yes, Leon, we are actually still right at Rosa Parks Circle, right in front of the Big V and the Kilwins, and we have met up with some people who are out here. We do have some sirens going off right now. Police are trying to disperse the area. Okay. We have people who are out here just kind of looking at the damage. So how long have you been out here, sir?
I've been out here for like a few hours, so just chilling, you know.
What do you think has escalated since you've been out here?
A lot, man. They broke a lot of stuff around here. And they broke the news station. They breaking liquor stores, man. It's crazy getting wild out here, man. But yeah.
And how does that make you feel to see the city kind of being taken over like this?
It's messed up because people work hard for this. It's fucked up. Especially up there, bro. It's crazy.
We do apologize for that.
I'm sorry for that
expletive on air.
Let me say something real quick. Let me say something else. Shout out Dre Division.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We're still out here live in Rosa Parks Circle. Police did just have some sirens go off as they're trying to people disperse. The garbage cans are on the ground, and people are just kind of walking around, gawking at the glass on the ground and whatnot. We will continue our coverage over here and kind of walk around and show a little bit more of the damage.
Wow. Incredible to see. Again, Dana White reporting there right outside of the Grand Rapids Art Museum that took a hit in this, like so many other businesses and organizations in downtown Grand Rapids. Windows smashed. At this point, we don't know for certain, but we're hoping that folks did not gain access to the interior of the Grand Rapids Art Museum. We're not sure if that's happened, but certainly damage has been done to the outside. As you well know, we do have some of our own interests there. Wood TV has a studio there. That was not at all being used tonight. As this unrest unfolded, none of our personnel was there as folks broke windows and smashed glass there. But no doubt there's been damage to that facility as well that certainly impacts our team also. So, yeah, you're looking live right now in downtown Grand Rapids, where Grand Rapids police cruisers continue to remain in place. They certainly don't want to leave the area or give an all clear too soon at any point, so as to invite those looking to do harm to come back. We also have businesses and buildings there that are exposed, that have had their doors and windows broken, so they're open and accessible to the public. You have to imagine that that's part of why the Grand Rapids Police is remaining in those positions, so that folks don't go inside and further take advantage of the situation that we have experienced here tonight. But as far as calm goes, relative to what we've seen all evening and all night long, this is about as calm as we've seen it. Before, we'd seen very few people casually walking through any of our video, and there we see some members of the public walking casually. It's an oddly refreshing sight to see,